Welcome to Just Asia, AHRC TV's weekly human rights program. These are the headlines. Police in Sri Lanka kill youth. Government responds by banning protests and transferring officers. Disappearances of Hong Kong publishers lead to protests and self-censorship. Rights defenders face mounting threat from authoritarian rulers in Bangladesh. Forced eviction in Indonesia proceed despite lawsuit. Legal aid assaulted during negotiations. Majority of Thai police corrupt, says sister of murdered British backpacker. Welcome to AHRC TV's Just Asia. I am Amila Sampath. We begin the program in Sri Lanka. It has been alleged that the police have murdered a young man in Embilipitiya during a coming-of-age party. According to guests, 2 police officers arrived at the party demanding alcohol. A confrontation resulted when the demands were rejected. The 2 officers called for reinforcement, and soon more police personnel arrived at the scene and started beating up the guests, including women. During the scuffle, a young man, Sumit Prasanna Jayawardena, was allegedly killed by the police. Despite a large body of evidence from guests and neighbors, such as eyewitnesses' accounts, photographs and videos, the alleged officers have not yet been arrested. What the government has done is transfer officers to other police stations. Large protests have broken out in Embilipitiya, demanding the arrest of the police officers. Authorities have responded with a court order issued to the victim's pregnant widow, banning any unruly behavior or protest against the police during the funeral. As the tension were building this week, large number of police were called to the street, including hundreds of special task force personnel, in order to prevent a mass protest by local people. As the HRC has noted in a statement this week, in no country is the maintenance of law and order possible if the law enforcement agency of the country, that the police itself, does not abide by the law. The Embilipitiya incident and many other similar incidents only indicate that the Sri Lankan police do not consider it their duty to abide by the law. A commonly held belief seems to be that the police can break any law and get away with it. Next, Just Asia report on ever-deepening crisis for democracy and human rights in Bangladesh. Legal and democratic institutions have simply stopped functioning, and rights defenders are largely unable to voice their concerns without risking their life and liberty. Just Asia caught up with one of the Bangladesh's most prominent human rights defender, Adilur Rahman Khan.
In Bangladesh today, we have a serious crisis of democracy, and there is no space for the civil societies to work for democracy, for human rights, for rights-based issues. In Bangladesh, institutions can't function independently. No institution have the independent ability to deliver kind of results to the people. And that's why the people are suffering, the country is suffering, and when we have a growing number of enforced disappearances, when we have extrajudicial executions by the law enforcement agencies, when we have massive torture all over the country on the people who are either belong to the political opposition, or they are just ordinary people, or have dissenting voices. They are tortured, and the country is lacking rule of law. In this situation, it's very important for the friends who want to support Bangladesh. They should support in developing democratic culture in Bangladesh. They should come to rescue democracy and rights of the people to vote independently, which the people of Bangladesh are struggling for, to support their cause, and also to help the people of Bangladesh to build independent institutions so that these institutions can provide proper service to the people. So these are the important aspects.
Continuing the theme of a shrinking space for freedom of expressions over to Hong Kong, the special administrative region of China, which was British colony until 1997, has the traditions of vigorously free press and dependable rule of law institutions. The city has recently experienced a dramatic downturn in these freedoms, as certain Hong Kong publishers have been abducted, allegedly by Mainland China secret police operating illegally in Hong Kong and Thailand. Hong Kong people are fighting back. Prominent politicians, celebrities, and activists have spoken out. Thousands of people have taken to the streets to protest against Chinese authorities blatantly breaking the rules of the one country, two systems, valid until at least 2047. According to the one country, two systems, Hong Kong has fully authority over internal policy, such as law enforcement and media freedoms, now perceived to be under threat.
We are here to march for one country, two systems. We are here to march for the freedom and security of the people of Hong Kong. What happened to Li Bo can happen to any one of us, because what Li Bo had done and what the other 5 Causeway Bay bookstores have done is just, they are just doing business. They are just publishing. They are just exercising their freedom of information. But what happened? All 5 of them disappear.
Mr. Li Po is a Hong Kong person. He publishes and sells books, some of which may embarrass the Chinese leadership. A few days ago, he was tricked and he was made to disappear. We still haven't heard what has happened to him, but we know that he is in the mainland of China. This is a matter of grave concern to Hong Kong people. We are experiencing political disappearance from the midst of Hong Kong.
People may be aware about the disappearance of Li Bo since last week, but actually for whole of the abduction and disappearance of the Causeway Bay bookseller, it have started from last year, October already. 4 of the booksellers from Causeway Bay bookstore have been disappeared and abducted from Thailand and mainland since October. But I would like to imply or indicate that actually for whole of the incident happened, the most different things is now Li Bo is already in mainland China, but his home return permit is still at home. So why can Li Bo back to mainland China?
According to all the evidence that has been reported, I believe that Mr. Li obviously had been taken against his will by certain law enforcement agents from across the border in mainland China through illegal means, namely by way of kidnapping. He was taken away from Hong Kong to mainland China, not because of anything that he did in Hong Kong was thought to be illegal, and that is the most worrying thing that has happened in Hong Kong since the handover in 1997.
As a singer-songwriter, I always thought I could write or sing whatever I want in Hong Kong. But after this Li Bo incident, I would think one day, like Li Bo, who used to sell and publish books in Hong Kong, I would be the next one who would be forced to disappear. And sometimes I wonder, who will be the next one?
I do not know how bad or how worse it can get. In the future, what can we say or what we cannot say in the public or to our friends or even over the phone about the Chinese government, about the Hong Kong government, about our leader in Hong Kong, Mr. C.Y. Leung, or with regards to anything that is remotely or directly related to politics. I mean, maybe one day we'll be taken away just because we're not happy about the police system.
This incident may indicate that the Chinese authorities is having a new reading to one country, two systems. Now, years ago, Deng Xiaoping mentioned that would not be a problem for Hong Kong people to criticize the Chinese Communist Party within Hong Kong. But now this incident shows that if Hong Kong people say something within Hong Kong, but it's unacceptable by the Chinese authorities, they would be prosecuted. So the disappearance of Mr. Li Po may mean also the disappearance of one country, two systems.
This event will change the whole tenor of Hong Kong, because it is not only about Mr. Li Po, not only about people who may publish books, not even about Hong Kong people, but anyone who comes to Hong Kong. And any time when we speak out for ourselves or for people in the mainland or for anybody in the world. So Hong Kong is no longer safe unless we have a clear resolution of the problem. So we would call upon the world, do not let this happen to Hong Kong, not only because it is our home, but because it is your world city on the edge of China.
Already, the abduction of 5 Hong Kong booksellers have resulted in further self-censorship. Page 1, a Singapore-owned chain of bookshop in the city, has withdrawn all sensitive books that deal with Chinese politics. Another publisher has suspended the publication of new book about President Xi Jinping, written by US-based Chinese dissident Yu Ji, due to fear and pressure. This book will now only be published in Taiwan. Meanwhile, in China, authorities have this week formally arrested on subversion charges at least 7 human rights lawyers who have been held in secret detentions since last summer. In July last year, more than 130 human rights lawyers and other legal staff were detained and questioned in an unprecedented crackdown on legitimate activities of legal professionals. This group of 7 lawyers and legal staff have now been charged with state subversion or incitement to state subversion, both of which are likely to carry long prison sentences in a country that has conviction rate of 99.9%. Next, Just Asia turns to Indonesia. On January 12, the Jakarta governor conducted a forced evictions operations against residents in Bukit Duri in South Jakarta. Hundreds of police were deployed to support the eviction. The residents say that their claims to the land is legal and have filed a lawsuit at the Jakarta Administrative Court to challenge the evictions by the Jakarta governor. According to Indonesian law, forced evictions cannot be conducted if the residents have filed a lawsuit. Therefore, according to law, the government has to wait for the court decision. However, when some public lawyers from the Jakarta Legal Aid tried to negotiate with the police officers, one of the lawyers, Aldo Felix Judari, was brutally beaten and kicked by the member of the Civil Service Police Unit. Ignoring the pending lawsuit in Jakarta Administrative Court, hundreds of police then proceed to forcibly evict 503 local residents from their homes. They used heavy machinery to destroy all of the houses. Finally, UK newspapers have reported this week about long Facebook posting by Laura Witheridge, sister of a British backpacker who was murdered along with her boyfriend on the Thai holiday island of Koh Tao. 2 Burmese migrant workers have now been convicted and sentenced to death for the murders. But Laura Witheridge has stated that the court proceedings and police handling of the cases were deeply flawed. Laura's 23-year-old sister Hannah and 24-year-old David Miller were found dead bludgeoned to death on beach in September 2014. Hannah had also been raped. In the posting, Laura says she thinks the Burmese men were scapegoats and that the real perpetrators were Thai nationals. She believes that corrupt Thai police were more interested in preserving Thailand's reputation as a tourist paradise than solving the case. She claims the family received death threats repeatedly during the trial and that they were offered money to keep quiet about the case. The Burmese suspect initially confessed to the crime, but the later said they had been forced to confess under torture. A recent video by cyber activist collective Anonymous backs up Laura's claim by accusing the Thai police of a cover-up the Koh Tao and other murder cases.
Anonymous has learned that the Thai police have accused innocent people before, and would rather blame foreigners or migrants for such crimes so as to protect their tourism industry than accuse their own Thai locals, that may deter tourists from choosing Thailand as their holiday destination. Anonymous is against any government who use prisoners, including innocent prisoners, for the benefit of getting a quick conviction to solve a case or for any kind of other publicity stunt for whatever purpose. Anonymous views these findings that we have learned a disgrace to the Thai police with the way in which they handle their investigations of serious crimes that have been committed on their islands against foreign tourists.
That is all for this episode of Just Asia. For more on these and other issues, please visit www.humanrights.asia. Thank you for watching and see you next week.